Hey everyone, this is your girl Sharifa, aka Shree, and welcome to the I'm Good podcast, or in better words, the I Feel Good podcast. If you are new here, welcome to the family. This is a podcast where I explore topics on mental health, physical health, nutrition, and everything in between. So if you're trying to get right and stay right mentally, this is definitely the place you want to be. And wait, before I begin, here's some quick info. Why did I name this podcast I'm Good? Simple. Because as people, from a cultural standpoint, whether we are down or happy, our favorite response to friends, families, or strangers is I'm good, even if we're not. It's completely normal not to feel happy all the time, but in the midst of whatever you go through, the saying I'm good can elaborate to so many different meanings. So yes, this is the place to be, whether you are down, happy, excited, and everything in between. I'm here to dish out knowledge, talk about current topics, and of course, lift you up. So feel free to go ahead and subscribe, share this podcast, leave a review, and tell a friend. Now let's go ahead and get started on today's show. Hey guys, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. And let me explain to you really quick. First of all, for starters, it's free. Yes, I said it's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. And I know most of you guys have a phone or computer, so it's so easy. Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So make sure you download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Hey everybody, welcome back to the I'm Good podcast. If you are new here, what's good? What's poppin'? Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. And for my I'm Good fam, my returning listeners, what's good? What's poppin'? Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode yet with me again. Thank you. As always, I like to express my gratitude and just honestly, I'm just really thankful. And we're also, not to say that just because we're in the month of November is when I should be thankful, but we are in the month of November, which is also the month of Thanksgiving. So I just definitely want to express my gratitude and give thanks to all of my listeners, wherever you are. I don't know where you guys are located, but I am so thankful for everyone who has tuned in, listened to an episode, whether it was one episode, whether it was 10 seconds of an episode. I don't care what it was. I want to thank you personally for listening. I want to thank everyone who has shared the podcast. I want to thank everyone who has, whatever you have done, whoever has taken the information that I provided and implemented in some way, whatever it may be. I really want to thank you. And then also too, because this is Thanksgiving is next week. I also want to wish all of my I'm Good fam listeners a happy Thanksgiving as well. So also too, this podcast is sponsored by www.allthingsshree.com. Use promo code to get 10% off your entire order. That is a special promo code for my I'm Good listeners, my I'm Good fam. So make sure you put promo code I'm Good fam in capital letters. So that's I-M as a Mary, G-O-O-D. FAM as a Mary. Put I'm Good fam at checkout to get 10% off your entire order. And then also too, we will be having a Black Friday sale. So there will be bigger discounts than the 10% off. But if you're listening to this after Black Friday, put in your promo code 10% off. And yes, get 10% off your entire order. And also too, as always, if you are listening to this on an Apple podcast or an Apple device, whatever you're listening to it on, well, I shouldn't say whatever you listen to, but I would say Apple Podcasts. If you're listening to this podcast through Apple, like through an Apple device, if you haven't done so, another way to express gratitude, if you're ever looking for ways to give back to this podcast or just show your thankfulness or gratitude for the podcast, you can just simply do something that's free. Is leave a rating and review. Feel free to leave a rating. Rating are just stars, and then a review obviously is you typing up, whatever review that you have, your opinion in regards to the podcast. So I appreciate all feedback. I don't really care. I shouldn't say I don't care. I care. Let me put it like that. I care, but I am learning too that, it's good to appreciate all feedback. I think a lot of times in life, we're just like, oh, I only want good feedback. Hey, I'm not telling you guys to put bad feedback. That's not what I'm saying. But, I appreciate people, like I said, who leave reviews and leave ratings and things like that. So, If you are, listening to this on Apple Podcasts, make sure you guys go ahead and leave a rating and review. And if you are listening to this like on another podcast platform, whether it be Spotify, I know this podcast is pretty much on every podcast now. Whatever podcast platform that you're listening to it on, yes, feel free to leave like a comment on there. I'm not sure of how all of the platforms work in regards to like rating and reviews, but nonetheless, make sure you guys go ahead and do that. And the reason why I mentioned Apple Podcasts, because Apple Podcasts, I believe, is like the number one outlet for podcasts. I know there's tons. Now you got Spotify, now you have Amazon, you have Google. There are tons and tons and tons. But for me, like, I started listening to podcasts strictly on Apple Podcasts. I didn't even know that there were other outlets for podcasts. So I'm not sure if Apple Podcasts was the first one, but that's why I do mention Apple Podcasts, because that's like the main platform a lot of people listen to it on. But if you don't have like an Apple iPhone, whether you have like an Android, whatever it may be, you can definitely listen to this on Spotify, Google, there's, like I said, tons and tons of platforms. So yes, if you guys can do that, just go ahead and leave a rating review. Also too, thank you to everyone who has tuned into the midweek roll call. I hope those affirmations are helpful. The affirmations that I release to you guys every single Wednesday, I hope those are helpful to you. And also, too, thank you, as I said in the beginning, for everyone who has shared this podcast. If you have not done so, make sure you go ahead and share this on like your social media. Feel free to share it on, I was going to say TikTok. I mean, you could share it on TikTok. I don't know if there's a toggle on here for you to share it on TikTok, but you can always share it on TikTok. You can like always like screen record stuff that I'm saying and upload it on TikTok. But feel free. Okay, yeah, sorry, y'all. Speaking of Apple Podcasts, like, that's so weird. Like, my headphones, okay, it's weird. Like, my AirPod headphones, like, cut it off, whatever. I don't know what happened. But yes, y'all, if y'all can go ahead, and share it on whatever outlet that you use. And also, too, share with your family and your friends. You can share with whoever. Just share it. Whoever you feel that will benefit from it. Even if you don't feel like that they will benefit from it right now. Sometimes you could tell people stuff, and I've been in that position where you can tell somebody something like, oh, this is how you should do this, or maybe you should look into doing this to help you, and then they don't take the information, but then down the road they take it. So, we all are living in different seasons of our life. So that's another thing that, I had to learn myself, is that, sometimes you can tell somebody to do all these things and they don't apply it until years later. So so share to someone who you feel may not even benefit from it, but you feel that they may benefit from it in a couple of years or so, or months. I shouldn't say years, but yes, y'all. So make sure you guys go ahead and share the podcast. So on today's episode, I was actually listening to, a podcast episode, with Joel Osteen. So if you don't know who Joel Osteen is he is the lead pastor. Yeah, that's pastor. Is that the word they use? Yeah, he's like the leader of the Lakewood Church. So I listen to his podcast. So he has like a podcast, like a daily podcast where it's like inspirational. He's very inspirational to me. Like, I just love his personality because it's just like very positive and uplifting. And that's another reason too, like, he has helped encouraging me, like with this podcast, to talk about things that are positive and encouraging, and not focus so much on, the negative and harping on the negative. So with this podcast, I just like to talk about, the positive things that you can do and not so much harp on the negative. And now I understand that some things, are out of your control, but I want to like really help people reel it back into like things that you can do to take control of your life. So I was listening to an episode that was about living content, and like just basically living content and just living in peace and just being content with where you are. So I wanted to like bring that topic today. I wanted to bring that type of topic today in today's episode. So I wanted to talk about how to become more content. And so I say more content. Maybe you have never been content in your life, so it could be how to become content. But today's episode, I wanted to talk about how to become more content. And so basically content just means, you're living intentionally, like you're like being at peace and, just being okay and being grateful for where you are. So like I said, think of it just being more intentional about what you're doing. And I think a lot of times, even me, we do things with no intent. Like we do things with no intent, and then and we try to figure out why am I so unhappy? Like, why is this going on? It's because you're not doing things in an intentional manner. And I honestly, personally feel like when you start doing things with intent or for a purpose, I feel like you really get rid of a lot of clutter. I was gonna say declutter, but you get rid of a lot of clutter in your life because you start saying to yourself, okay, I'm doing this intentionally so that this can happen. And when you don't live in a place of, living intentionally and, becoming content, you basically just do anything. And that's why a lot of us are confused and just kind of scatterbrained because we're doing things with no purpose. That's like us getting inside of a car and driving with no destination. That wastes gas. And so when you drive a car with no destination, you're wasting gas. And that goes the same thing for, your life as well, or our life, whatever, is that when you live life and just do stuff with no destination or purpose, you're really causing yourself to go on empty. You're really wasting all the energy. So you have to keep yourself full. So if you think about it this way, when you have a destination, when you're driving, you can fill up your tank, whatever. Well, for me, when I have a destination when I'm driving, I feel like my car stays more full than me just aimlessly driving around for no reason. So when you do things with a purpose, you'll notice that you'll be more full. And I'm not saying that you'll always have energy, because life is, sometimes you won't always have the energy to do things that, you should do. But when you have a destination, you'll be able to fill up quicker, because just like a gas station, if you have purpose, and you have purpose as to know the destination that you're going when you drive, and about all the, the different gas places that are nearby. And think about it this way. You also don't typically have to fill up that quick. It's just like when you go on a road trip, you fill the car up on full. You don't go on a road trip with it being empty. So, that's just an analogy, hopefully you guys get that analogy, but I just really wanted to talk about how to become more content. And this is also something for me as well. And I try my hardest to tell myself, like, when you buy stuff, when you eat stuff or do stuff, it has to have a purpose. So if you're buying a piece of clothing, whatever it may be, okay, what's your purpose? What are you going to do with this? Or are you buying clothing just to buy it? Okay, so you bought a TV. Okay, what's your purpose with the TV? Are you buying the TV just to watch it? And so that's really what being intentional is about. So the first thing I want to say in regards to becoming more content with your life and just more intentional and more purpose driven is to look at your circle. And what I mean by that is, like, look at your circle. Is your circle causing you peace, or is your circle causing you chaos? When you're around a certain group of people, or if you're around a certain person, do you feel the need to be tense, or do you feel the need to be at peace? You should be around people. I don't care what nobody says. You should be around people that lift up your spirits. I mean, there's nothing else to it. You should be around people that make you feel fulfilled. And then also vice versa. If you make someone feel fulfilled, or you help someone lift their spirits, I'm not saying that you should be like, oh, I lifted your spirit, so you should make me feel this way, or I did this for you. Like, no. But also, just understand that, when you do good for people, I'm not saying that you should always look for it to come back to you. But you just sometimes, honestly, in order to live a life that's more purpose driven, you really have to really look at who you're around. And I think a lot of times, people think that, oh, I hang around a big circle, like, oh, that means something. A lot of times it's not even that. A lot of people, you hear from successful people a lot of times, is they'll say their circle is small. They may have acquaintances and, people that they call friends, but a lot of successful people, don't have like tons and tons of friends. They have like a really small circle, whether that be family, friends, whatever it may be, coworkers, whatever it may be. I would say the first thing to look at is your circle. Are they bringing you sadness? Are they making you happy? when you leave from their presence, do you feel down or do you feel uplifted? Like, and that's things I have to tell myself to this day. Like, when you're around somebody, do you feel good or do you not feel good? So you have to honestly look at your circle. I don't care, like I said, friends, family, co-workers. It's any type of relationship. You have to really dissect your circle to really figure out, okay, is it me? Because sometimes it could be you. And that's the thing. Sometimes it could be you, but it could also be maybe the circle you're hanging around is bringing out a bad trait. And sorry, y'all, my throat. But so sometimes, like, even think about like high school or if you're in college, whatever, sometimes hanging around a group of people will bring out something in you that is negative. And we all have different traits. We all have the ability to be negative, but we all have the ability to be positive. And I think that's what a lot of us don't understand, is that we all have the ability to be positive and live a happy life. Happiness is a mindset. I don't care what age you are. I don't care if you're 100. It's a mindset. And that's what people don't understand. Like, as you get older, and that's something I'm learning now, is like, it really is a mindset. You can be 70 years old and you can have a poor mindset. Or you can be 70 years old and have a happy mindset, a prosperous mindset. So it really begins with the mindset. Mindset is so important. That's why also too, why I like to do this podcast and record this podcast, because I like to evoke a positive mindset. And I tell you guys all the time, not only does this podcast, help you guys, it also helps me as well. So that's the first one. You want to look at your circle. Number 2, this has to go with like social media and like in regards to being more content with your life and just being more intentional. Sometimes you got to just limit social media. And I'm not even going to say sometimes. I'm going to say most of the time. Social media can be a drag. It literally can be a drag. And I will say probably the number one app that is a drag, but I use it because I use it for like my own Instagram, personal Instagram, as well as business, is Instagram. And I don't know if the developers ever wanted it to be an app where it causes so many emotions. But then again, I mean, that's how you sometimes drive business, is based off of emotion. You want to evoke an emotion out of your customers, whatever. But Instagram can definitely be one of those places where you'll feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not good enough. Or, oh my gosh, like, yo, she just bought a brand new car, and you looking at your car like, oh my God, like I got this rusty dusty, or it may not even be rusty dusty. You may have a brand new Benz you may have a brand new Benz in your garage or whatever outside, but you look at somebody who just bought a brand new G-Wagon, and then you looking at them like, oh my gosh, I need a G-Wagon. No, social media is the easiest way to become uncontent or just not content at all. Social media is the easiest way, because every time you scroll, and this is me, like I'll scroll and I'm like, oh my God, look at this. Oh my God, look at that. Or social media will show you everything that you need, even though you don't really need it. So I would definitely say limit your social media. I will say TikTok is a little better because TikTok has a humorous side of it. So it's more lighthearted. You don't have to look a certain way. Granted, there are some people that do, but TikTok is more easygoing. So, I will say the whole social media route has kind of been changing a little bit in regards to being not as serious. But I will say limit social media if you can. Like, if you got to set a timer on your phone, whatever it may be, limit it. I mean, there's nothing else to it. Maybe you could say, okay, I'm going to look at it for an hour a day, but I know I'm not alone. I sometimes will catch myself on social media and I look up and it's like 4 hours later and nothing happened. I got nothing out of it. Now, I will say for me, it is important to follow pages, that, help you to grow. So if you're following pages that are there to help you grow or something inspirational, that's one thing. But even sometimes just keep looking at those pages really doesn't do anything for you, because almost kind of like the scripture says, faith without works is dead. So you can read all the motivational stuff in the world, but if you're not doing none of it, what does it do? You can look at all the fitness pages in the world, but if you're not going to the gym, if you're not working out at home, if you're not doing anything for yourself, it does nothing. So So that's number 2 in regards to becoming more content. Try your best to limit social media. Like I said, you don't have to limit it completely. I'm not saying that at all. But I would say try to figure out what works best for you. If you find that you're always on it, like 5 hours a day, maybe limit to 4 hours, maybe do 4.5 hours. I'm not saying get rid of it completely, but just really try to figure out ways to limit it. Or also too, you can always unfollow people who don't make you feel that great, or unfollow people where you keep comparing yourself to them. So those are just some options. Number 3, you should also, another great way to become more content is to have a gratitude journal. And I know I've said this before. So I do have a gratitude journal, whatever. It's so terrible. Like, I used to like writing it every day. But like when I remember, I'm like, okay, let me write in it. So now I keep trying to tell myself you need to keep your gratitude journal out so that you can physically see it. So a gratitude journal is beautiful. I love, love, love it, because what I love to do is I love to go back and be like, oh my God, this happened on January 2nd. Oh my gosh, this happened on March 13th. Oh my God, this happened on March 20th. And so it's a great way for you to be thankful for the now, for the present, because you look back and be like, oh my gosh, like, I don't care if there has been days, I'm going to be honest with you guys, in my gratitude journal where I'm like, I'm thankful. I'm definitely thankful to God to be alive, but I can't figure out for the life of me what I'm going to write down, because I'm like, nothing really, because I like to write down things that happen throughout the day. Like, basically like I'll say something like, I gained, 10 listeners. So that's kind of the way I do my grateful journal. I put things that like, oh, this happened or that happened. I gained 10 listeners, or today I walked outside for 45 minutes. So that's the way I express gratitude in my journal, whatever. And sometimes there are days where I'm like, not to say that nothing happened, but I'm like, I've gotten to a point. There was one day where I was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna put down? I'm like, Sharifa, easy. I'm alive. I'm breathing. I'm here. I ate today. So even if you can't figure out some things to put down, I would say put anything down. And I like to put down at least 3 things. You have to put down at least 3 things, not one thing you're grateful for or one thing that happened good that day. Put down at least 3 things, and that will make you think. So a gratitude journal is perfect to help you just reflect upon your day. For me, I like to do my gratitude journal at night. I know sometimes people do it in the morning. Like I said, I'm big on this. Whatever works for you, do what works for you. But for me, I like to do it at night. Probably why I sometimes forget, but I like to do it at night because I love, love, love to reflect upon the day. And I like to end my day with what happened that day that I'm thankful for. So number 4, another thing to become more content is take a break. Like I said, even with social media, take a break from whatever it is that you're doing. If you're working, listen, I'm an advocate for PTO. Ask for a break. Okay. We all need a mental break. Take a break from whatever you doing. Like, I even had to do that this past week. I'm like, I need a break. I need a break where I'm not doing anything. Like, it's okay to take a break. Like the quote says, learn to rest, but not quit. Okay. So it's okay to take a break. I think sometimes, once again, I feel like social media does this for me. Sometimes it's all about no sleep, grind. And I get it, but listen, you need to take a break, You need to take a break. You need to, just reflect upon what you have done. And then also this could be a chance for you to figure out, okay, how can I be more intentional? Like, can I get rid of some stuff in my house? What things can I get rid of that have no use or purpose for me? Everything that you have should have a purpose. If you think about your Wi-Fi has a purpose. Your Wi-Fi is there to operate your phone, to use your phone, to use your television. So everything that you have around you should serve a purpose, just like the people in your life. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like, seriously, everything around you should serve a purpose. If you look at your house, if you have blinds, your blinds are there so that you can open up the blinds so that whether you can see outside, to let the sun come in, whatever it may be. So everything has a purpose. And if you live a life that is purpose driven, I'm telling you, I feel like you'll have a way more clearer path in regards to your destination. And then also too, you're going to start getting rid of stuff. Like me, I've been getting rid of so much stuff because I'm like, what purpose does this serve? Especially if you have multiple of things, like, why do I have multiple of things? What purpose does it serve? And as you start realizing what purpose things serve, you will start throwing things out. Like, you literally will start throwing and you'll start getting rid of things because you'll be like, this doesn't serve any purpose. So I know I'm getting away from, that was from number 4, taking a break. But listen, y'all, I don't know. Like I said, after listening to, that podcast episode, sermon that Joel Osteen said, it just really opened my eyes up to a lot. And I'm like, I got to give this to my I'm Good fam today. I'm like, I have to. Number 5, write down things you need to do for yourself. Point blank, period. Take the emotions out of it. Because listen, a lot of us are emotion driven. We say, I don't feel like this, or I don't want. No. Write down things you need to do for yourself. For you, not for anybody else, but for yourself. You can't take care of someone else if you can't take care of someone else if you haven't taken care of yourself. Now, some people are caregivers and things like that. I understand that. And that's even hard, very hard for caregivers and people like that. Caring for people, especially when, they have no other option to care for somebody. And even though they're stressed and whatever it may be, it is hard. But try your best. And if you're not like a caregiver or anything like that, this is an ample opportunity for you to write down things you need to do for yourself. I'm talking about if you need to exercise, write that down. And I'm not even saying you don't really have to do a plan, but just write down things that you need, keyword need, to do for yourself. I'm not talking about want, but things that that you need to do for yourself to become more intentional in your living. So like I said, it could be exercise. It could be eating correctly. It could be eliminating a certain food group. It could be speaking to someone. It could be starting a business. It could be anything. I don't know. Like I said, we're all different. I don't know. But write down things I would say write down at least 3 things you need to do for yourself. Starting today, write down 3 things you need to do for yourself. So, all right, y'all. So it's time for this week's quote of the week. You know what, y'all? I thought I wrote down a quote of the week. So you know what? Let me see. I had a quote that I thought of. Oh my gosh. It was a quote that I had wrote down yesterday that came to my head. I had said something like, greatness is not a choice, greatness is. Oh my gosh, y'all. I forgot it. So here's a quote that I got from a sermon that I had listened to by Michael Todd. It says, hopefully I haven't used this before, but if I have, it's okay. The quote is, vision frustrates the enemy. Once again, vision frustrates the enemy. So, that right there, I'll say it again, vision frustrates the enemy. All right, I'm Good fam. You already know what time it is. We are now at the end of this week's show. And I hope this information was helpful, insightful, and everything in between. Do not forget to go ahead and subscribe to the I'm Good podcast. Share this podcast, leave a review, and tell a friend. Thank you guys once again so much for listening. Also, too, I hope you all have a great and awesome, happy, family, fun-filled Thanksgiving. And I will see all of you beautiful people next week. Bye-bye.